Good morning. Welcome to another Be Lifted video. I hope that you're having the greatest day. If you're not, I hope that this encourages you. I'm Daniel, I'm from Essex, and I've got my friend Gary with me, who's from Hertfordshire.
Hello. From Essex originally.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about you, Gary.
Well, I'll start with the highlights. I'm a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, as you know. Best team in North London. I'm minister of church in Sawbridgeworth. Sawbridgeworth Congregational Church. I've been there since 2008. Before that, I ran a church in South London for 4 years, and then before that, we lived abroad for a few years. But we won't go back that far. A long time ago. But yeah, I'm married, two children, almost two adults, in a few years' time. So yeah.
I mean, so how and when did you become a Christian, and what made you do what you're doing today by leading a church?
Yeah, I became I started at the very beginning. I always believed in God. I remember being in infant school actually. My sort of one memory, just walking through the playground and believing there was God. There was a God. I mean, I suppose in those days, I didn't grow up in a Christian home at all. But I suppose in those days you did have more religious assemblies and stuff, whereas now it's not so much. But no, I always just believed there was someone out there and something bigger than me. And nothing happened. And when I was 11 years old, my brother became a Christian. And he invited me to go to church with him. And there's something called Spring Harvest, which you'll know of, but some people watching may not have never heard of. But it's a Christian camp. And when I went, it wasn't as nice as it is now. And in Butlins. And my brother, and really up to that point, we'd only been to like Roydon on camping holidays. So this was quite a big deal to possibly go to Butlins. And my brother said, if you come to church with me, we're going to this thing called Spring Harvest, and you might be able to come. But that's not the reason you go to church. For the holiday. No. But that was the reason I went, and we never even went, so I carried on going. And then one Sunday night we used to go around a woman's house called Maria Martelli, and you'll never know, but she just sort of called me into a quiet corner and explained to me that Jesus died for me, and if I believed in him I could live forever and go to heaven when I died. I didn't really get quite what she was offering me, I guess, but I prayed the prayer, and even though I didn't get it, I think God had me at that moment. So I think my faith grew in the years afterwards, and then and so really from that point, sort of life goes like that, doesn't it? So I think I was only 11, I hadn't done any terrible sins particularly like that, but I just felt slowly my relationship with God began to grow. I used to enjoy reading my Bible and praying and going to church every Sunday. And I did all those things, and they were never in question. Now, some people become Christians and they go off the boil, don't they? But I did those things all the time. And then, and obviously carried on. Had a couple of prophecies when I was leading. This is leading on to your second question about why I went into ministry. I had a couple of prophecies quite early on about standing up for the things of God. And then when I was 16, and it was quite a pivotal moment, I went to a church in Ilford called Cranbrook Baptist. Which again you probably never heard of, and somebody stopped me as I was leaving because I was feeling a bit low and I didn't feel any emotions. I was, everyone's all happy and you're thinking I don't feel very happy and maybe I've misunderstood it all. And I turned to leave, and this woman chased after me and grabbed hold of me, and she said that she just felt that I was going to tell lots of people about Jesus, and I said, well, when? And she said just around the corner, but she also said it will be a long, lonely road. Which is interesting. I'm not quite sure that's happened just yet. But yes, anyway, so then from that, I think from that sort of prophetic word, then probably things changed again. So I suppose I began to get more involved in my local church, and then me and Andrew, my wife, got married in 1998, and then we went off to Bangladesh and we lived there for 2 years. And it was whilst I was there, I was a youth minister of the International Church, and it's whilst I was there that we both felt that we should come back and I should train at Bible college and go into ministry. So I came back and I went to a place called Oak Hill in North London, and the rest is history.
Wow. It's
a very long answer, sorry.
That's all right. I mean, I've been to your church a couple of times, with my parents, obviously they go there.
It's all right.
And I quite enjoy it. And I think, when I started to become a Christian, I wasn't, a sinner, like in my opinion. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't, go out and vandal bus stops. And I think, God takes on a journey, and I think that's quite similar to me. So I was going to church. I've been obviously God Central, and I've come to your church a couple of times to check it out and stuff, especially Christmases. Then COVID-19 hit, something we at least didn't even expect, So how do you think COVID has affected you as a church, or maybe not affected you?
Well, it's interesting, COVID, isn't it? Well, it's rubbish. First of all,
Yeah.
It's been awful, and no one wants this. And the thought of it going on for a second year, which is probably we're probably going to go past March, aren't we, with all these restrictions?
Yeah.
I suppose on the church community, it's probably had a positive effect and a negative one in different ways. So I think the negative stuff, is the longer it goes on, the more people aren't contacting each other, aren't seeing each other because they just can't. And so there are some people that perhaps are around the edges that maybe don't feel as supported as they would have done. And maybe we probably had some newer people that were interested in knowing more. We may well have not quite got them in the way we would have done had we met physically and been able to carry on as we were. So it's not, so I think that and the frustration, and people are tired as well. And you sense that when we reopened in July the 5th, trying to restart everything, you just got the impression that people were quite tired and quite weary. And that was quite a struggle. So I think, like everybody else, I think it's just those personal struggles, isn't it? I think that the good side of COVID, if I can say good, because there's nothing good about a pandemic, but I think it probably has made people and made us as a church just appreciate the good things. I mean, I don't think we're in a bad place as a church. It's been a wake-up call for a lot of churches. I don't think it was for us particularly, because I think we were already kind of going in the right direction. But if anything, it's made us slightly more proactive in doing stuff in the community and things like that. And we're already streaming our services, but it's just nice that you kind of realise doing the right thing. I think, and for me, that sort of crisis response at the beginning as well, when it all sort of happened at the beginning, there was a kind of right, let's get stuck in and help each other. And so as a community, people have done lots of things off their own back, and we've had lots of ideas from the leadership team and stuff. And so so I think it's been good and bad.
Oh, that's good. It's definitely been. I think the second lockdown's a lot better than the first one, because they've allowed places of worship to remain open if you want to. And I think even I've come a few times, haven't we? Then it sort of went into a deeper lockdown, and I mean you're still operating on a much smaller capacity, aren't you? A lot of it's still online, isn't it? But
so we decided, because it was good the government have listened and have said churches can stay open, but they've left it to us to decide, which is good. But at the same time, it's quite a hard choice to make, because a lot of churches have chosen just to completely shut, which I think personally is a shame, and that's not to judge them, but I think it's a shame. I think churches should be open unless there's no other reason. But equally, we were having 2 services on a Sunday morning, as you know, and had we have carried on like that, there would have been quite a lot of people coming in, and then you think, well, people in the community could accuse us of being irresponsible. Equally, with businesses shutting as well, I don't know, it doesn't feel like we're standing with them if we carry on as normal. So we decided that we would match what schools do. So we asked the majority of the congregation who were okay and sort of feeling fairly good about themselves to watch from home, and then really Sunday mornings are for those who are having a tough week. So we've sort of matched what schools do. So schools are open for vulnerable kids, aren't they? So in a sense, we're kind of having a face-to-face gathering for those that are finding it difficult. So we've kind of tried to do that, so it's a bit better.
I think it's hard. You've got to find a balance, because there's people mental health difficulties, and it's so high right now. You've got to get a balance, because some people, mental health in the church, that's their point of focus. That's their highlight of the week, even. So it's hard, isn't it, to get a balance? So
that's why we didn't want to. That's why when the lockdown happened, it felt like we only had 2 choices: stay open as we were, or shut. And I thought, I don't like either of those really, because to stay open as we are, we're not standing in solidarity with local businesses that are shut, and we could be accused of being, not keeping people safe. Although I disagree with that, because church is about the safest place in the country with COVID. But equally, I'm totally against shutting the church for exactly the reason you've just said, because there are people, especially after all these months, who are seriously struggling, and just to say sorry, stay at home, we'll see you another time. Doesn't sit with me. So I'm glad that we could do both.
And it's opening in a safe way. Like you've got all the precautions, you sanitize, masks and stuff. So it's good.
And church is still one of the safest places in terms of getting COVID in the country. So there are some examples of it, but most churches are safe. We've not had a single couple of people within the congregation have tested positive, but they've not tested positive anywhere near a Sunday morning service, which is good. And there's like 3 people, I think, in total.
Yeah.
And one of those hasn't come at all. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been quite inspired on social media. I mean, when the lockdown first began, and you've done then Christmas, you've done all sorts of different sort of projects, action projects in the community. So maybe explain a bit what you've done over Christmas and how, I mean, I was there on a Sunday morning and you was explaining about how so many more people, managed to actually see how the views went up and everything. And I thought that was quite inspiring. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Well, we did a couple of things over Christmas, particularly. But since the first lockdown in March, we've been cooking meals for families. We do something called Make Lunch. So every Wednesday of every week of every school term, every school holiday, for the last 3.5 years, we've been doing warm meals for families. And of course, during the first lockdown, that had to stop because you couldn't have people in the building. So then we moved to twice a week. This is back in the first lockdown. Sorry, it's not quite the timescale you wanted, but we're doing 2 meals a week with a team of people there and giving them out. So probably sort of 30, 38, 40 people, or 40 sort of groups of people were getting them. Yeah, and then that changed to every month we now do 4 weeks worth of meals for anyone that wants them, not just families, anyone that wants them. We've got a couple of single people that get them. And then Christmas came around, and we did a big thing at Christmas with the carols online, which is the higher views you're talking about, which is when we had all the schools sang a carol, I should say. I did a talk, and there were 2 or 3 other bits as well. And we put it all together, and I think that's been viewed, sort of 3,500 times or something.
Wow.
So it's the biggest thing the church has probably ever done. And I think watching live must have been about 2,000 people watching live when we did it on the 13th of December. So it's easily the biggest thing the church has probably ever done in its entire history, which is quite a strange thought.
Considering
really.
How many people you can fit in the building,
Well, well, and this is another benefit of something like COVID, is actually you can connect with the community in a way that just wouldn't have worked before COVID, because it's not, the internet was there, but I don't think the community probably would want that same connection, whereas now it's different. And so it's different for all of us. And then the other thing we did at Christmas, did something called Christmas in a Bag. It was called that. Sorry, I forget. So basically, we asked for donations from the local, because we thought there's lots of crisis support. So Food Bank do a phenomenal job with the food boxes and stuff, and we did a similar version to that in November locally. But we did do all that, but we thought actually it's all crisis stuff, and people just get, you get tins of beans and essentials, but it's Christmas. So Tesco's donated stuff from Harlow and Church Langley, and some other donations from other local businesses, and loads of people from the community dropped stuff in. Great St Mary's and the Catholic Church actually gave us a donation, and High Wyche, St James in Thorley, St James and High Wyche, all donated. And so we had I think we gave away 75 bags. It was 2 bags per person. So, but it was full of chocolates and sweets and all sorts of like that, and as well as some Christmas decorations as well.
Oh yeah.
So so we just turned up in people's houses and gave them. So some people that we had connections with Make Lunch and some newer ones, we just sort of turned up and said Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And that was lovely. That was really nice. That was a nice thing to do. And then since then we're doing something new. Shall I talk about the shop or?
Oh yeah, the pop-up shop, that looks quite cool. That's the main thing going right now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just so we thought at the beginning of January, when the first lockdown happened, we made lots of plans, but one of the things we sort of thought was we should have a community shop. But lots of churches do a similar thing to this, so it's not, they're common in terms of churches across the country. But we just collect donations from the town. We've set them up all over the tables in the church hall, because our church hall is not going to be used for anything for a while. And then so during lockdown, we're just going to do it during lockdown and then see where we get to. And then basically with donations, people, anyone that feels they're struggling with their budget, there's no referral system. There's no judgment about if you come out from a different area. If you're a family or a single person, we don't care. So every Wednesday 1 till 3 and every Saturday 10 till 12, the shop's open and people can come in and they just shop. So they get a bag or 2, depending on how many of them there are, and they just fill it up. So we've got tins of beans and soups and bread and fresh vegetables, and all the kind of stuff you would expect in a kitchen cupboard. But also we've expanded it to include like cleaning products, bleach, washing up liquid tablets, those sort of things, toilet roll, sanitary products as well, deodorants, those kinds of things. And then we've got some clothing as well, and some duvets and bedding. and people can just take what they need, and there's no kind of judgment at all or anything. So sometimes, and the first question someone's asked me is, oh, how do I get a referral? So of course that's how other things work. And I said that there's no referral needed. Just come and take what you need, and you can come as often as you like.
Oh, that must be really good. Like, definitely, even brighten up people's days. It's been really good, really bad with people losing jobs. So it must have been quite hard financially for people in the community as well. And that must have been.
Well, really, unemployment's up at 5 or 6%. I forget. I think it might be 5. But so it's creeping up. And I think the problem is the more money the government gives away to keep things open, the more it's going to need back. And there's lots of businesses that just aren't going to open at the end of this. And so, and of course, the furlough scheme, as wonderful as it is, and everyone says, oh, well, 20% pay cut could be worse. It could be worse. But that 20%, if you don't save and you can't save and you use all your money to live, then 20% off your salary is huge. So, and food is one of the biggest costs, I think, for people. So, so that's why we did it.
So my last question is, like, what has kept your faith alive in this time?
Well, I think this is kind of what we're built for. Dare I say it, Christian? I think what kills the Christian faith in people is comfort. And I think one of the problems before COVID was a lot of Christians were very comfortable. And so there's almost, and obviously non-Christians are very comfortable as well. And so thinking about mortality, thinking about the future, well, why would you need to worry about any of that? And I think, and many Christians probably, if they're honest, would probably think that God was kind of a partner with them rather than their king. And it should be that, not this. And sometimes it's even this, where they kind of, I'm going over here and hopefully God will follow me over there and bless what I'm doing. And I think for me, actually, my faith hasn't needed to be kept going. I think personal level, I have moments where I feel seriously fed up with everything because it just goes on and on. But my faith, actually, probably the reverse is true. I think this is the kind of setting that Christianity was built for. I think built for is the wrong phrase, but you know what I mean. We're here to to be in the gutter, to pick up the fallen, to rescue the oppressed. We're not supposed to be living in lovely, wonderful big houses with more money than we know how to spend. We're supposed to be people that rely on God and serve Him. And so, actually, I think it's probably a time of growth for a lot of people. Not for everyone, of course. But for me personally, certainly the first few months, I felt a reliance on God that I probably haven't felt for a while. So,
I mean, for me, I think, we went into lockdown. I was on furlough, and I mean, I stayed on Facebook. I'm a Christian and that quite a bit, and I thought it wouldn't be right for me to stay quiet in lockdown. So I got a few friends together. I got Josh, who edits some of my videos, and we just thought we'd continually make videos. Making these videos have kept my faith alive in this time as well. So it's finding what helps, doesn't it?
I think he's serving God, isn't it? And I think when you're doing things for Him, then of course, you're living it out, aren't you?
Exactly.
And the world needs us to. The world doesn't need Christians to shrivel up and hide. It needs us to have a bit of perseverance and fight. And I think, and it's almost, it's a bit like we've kind of reversed back into more of a Victorian Edwardian type world thing, where all the kind of social services, if you like, are creaking and they're struggling, and there weren't any obviously back then. And the church provided Sunday school to teach kids. They actually taught how to read and write, didn't they? It wasn't just keep them amused on a Sunday morning. It was a school. A lot of the social reforms in this country happened because Christians and the church stood up. And I feel like we're morphing back into that a little bit. And of course, if the economy keeps going down and we keep spending all our money, that's going to be, and actually the volunteering the church does, it's going to become a real witness to the world, hopefully.
Definitely. So I'm going to wrap this up now. It's going to be just going to end it. So if you're struggling with anything, who's watching this, you can reach out. There's a God who loves you. There's a God who cares for you, and He has a plan for you. So you can reach out to us on any of our Be Lifted social media, and we'd be more than happy to chat with you. So cheers. Thank you, Gary, for coming on. It's been
That's right, my pleasure.
Inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's nice to know. No, God bless you. Good on you for making this as well.
Okay, no worries. We'll be producing a video next Sunday, 6 p.m, where there'll be someone else doing a podcast. So we'll see you then. And cheers. Thank you, Gary.
No worries. See you later.